And now Chapter 20 of the Antya Lila, the Shikshastika Prayers.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaudha
Only the most fortunate will relish the mad words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which mixed with jubilation, envy, agitation, submissiveness, and grief, all produced by ecstatic loving emotions. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra. And all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus resided at Jagannath Puri, he was continuously overwhelmed night and day by separation from Krishna. Day and night he tasted transcendental blissful songs and verses with two associates, namely Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai. He relished the symptoms of various transcendental emotions such as jubilation, lamentation, anger, humility, anxiety, grief, eagerness, and satisfaction. He would recite his own verses expressing their meanings and emotions, and thus enjoy tasting them with these two friends. Sometimes the Lord would be absorbed in a particular emotion and would stay awake all night reciting related verses and relishing their taste. In great jubilation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai, know from me that chanting of the holy names is the most feasible means of salvation in this age of Kali. In this age of Kali, the process of worshipping Krishna is to perform sacrifice by chanting the holy name of the Lord. One who does so is certainly very intelligent, and he attains shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna." In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Saint Kadabhajan says, "In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions." Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna, one can be freed from all undesirable habits. This is the means of awakening all good fortune and initiating the flow of waves of love for Krishna. Let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which can cleanse the mirror of the heart and stop the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. It gives a cooling effect to everyone and enables one to taste full nectar at every step. By performing congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, one can destroy the sinful condition of material existence, purify the unclean heart, and awaken all varieties of devotional service. The result of chanting is that one awakens his love for Krishna and tastes transcendental bliss. Ultimately, one attains the association of Krishna and engages in his devotional service as if immersing himself in a great ocean of love. Lamentation and humility awoke within Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he began reciting another of his own verses. By hearing the meaning of that verse, one can forget all unhappiness and lamentation. My Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, in your holy name there is all good fortune for the living entity, and therefore you have many names, such as Krishna and Govinda, by which you expand yourself. You have invested all your potencies in those names, and there are no hard and fast rules for remembering them. My dear Lord, although you bestow such mercy upon the fallen conditioned souls by liberally teaching your holy names, I am so unfortunate that I commit offenses while chanting the holy name, and therefore I do not achieve attachment for chanting. Because people vary in their desires, you have distributed various holy names by your mercy. Regardless of time or place, one who chants the holy name, even while eating or sleeping, attains all perfection. You have invested your full potencies in each individual holy name, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attachment for chanting your holy names. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, O Svarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai, hear from me the symptoms of how one should chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to awaken very easily one's dormant love for Krishna. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, but is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. These are the symptoms of one who chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Although he is very exalted, he thinks himself lower than the grass on the ground, and like a tree, he tolerates everything in two ways. When a tree is cut down, it does not protest, and even when drying up, it does not ask anyone for water. The tree delivers its fruits, flowers, and whatever it possesses to anyone and everyone. It tolerates scorching heat and torrents of rain, yet it still gives shelter to others. Although a Vaishnav is the most exalted person, he is prideless and gives all respect to everyone, knowing everyone to be the resting place of Krishna. If one chants the holy name of Lord Krishna in this manner, he will certainly awaken his dormant love for Krishna's lotus feet. As Lord Chaitanya spoke in this way, his humility increased, and he began praying to Krishna that he could discharge pure devotional service. Wherever there is a relationship of love of Godhead, its natural symptom is that the devotee does not think himself a devotee. Instead, he always thinks that he has not even a drop of love for Krishna. O Lord of the universe, I do not desire material wealth, materialistic followers, a beautiful wife, or fruitive activities described in flowery language. All I want, life after life, is unmotivated devotional service to you. My dear Lord Krishna, I do not want material wealth from you, nor do I want followers, a beautiful wife, or the results of fruitive activities. I only pray that by your causeless mercy, you give me pure devotional service to you, life after life. In great humility, considering himself a conditioned soul of the material world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again expressed his desire to be endowed with service to the Lord. O my Lord, O Krishna, O son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servant. But because of my own fruitive acts, I have fallen in this horrible ocean of nescience. Now please be causelessly merciful to me. Consider me a particle of dust at your lotus feet. I am your eternal servant, but I forgot your lordship. Now I have fallen in the ocean of nescience and have been conditioned by the external energy. Oh, be causelessly merciful to me by giving me a place with the particles of dust at your lotus feet, so that I may engage in the service of your lordship as your eternal servant. Natural humility and eagerness then awoke in Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He prayed to Krishna to be able to chant the Maha Mantra in ecstatic love. My dear Lord, when will my eyes be beautified by filling with tears that constantly glide down as I chant your holy name? When will my voice falter and all the hairs on my body stand erect in transcendental happiness as I chant your holy name? Without love of Godhead, my life is useless. Therefore, I pray that you accept me as your servant and give me the salary of ecstatic love of God. Separation from Krishna awoke various mellows of distress, lamentation, and humility. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke like a crazy man. My Lord Govinda, because of separation from you, I consider even a moment a great millennium. Tears flow from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I see the entire world as void. In my agitation, a day never ends, for every moment seems like a millennium. Pouring incessant tears, my eyes are like clouds in the rainy season. The three worlds have become void because of separation from Govinda. I feel as if I were burning alive in a slow fire. Lord Krishna has become indifferent to me just to test my love, and my friends say, better to disregard him. While Srimati Radharani was thinking in this way, the characteristics of natural love became manifest because of her pure heart. The ecstatic symptoms of envy, great eagerness, humility, zeal, and supplication all became manifest at once. In that mood, the mind of Srimati Radharani was agitated, and therefore she spoke a verse of advanced devotion to her gopi friends. In the same spirit of ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited that verse, and as soon as he did so, he felt like Srimati Radharani. He said, "Let Krishna tightly embrace this maidservant who has fallen at his lotus feet. Let him trample me or break my heart by never being visible to me. He is a debauchee, after all, and can do whatever he likes, but he is still no one other than the worshipable Lord of my heart. I am a maidservant at the lotus feet of Krishna. He is the embodiment of transcendental happiness and mellows. If he likes, he can tightly embrace me and make me feel oneness with him, or by not giving me his audience, he may corrode my mind and body. Nevertheless, it is he who is the Lord of my life." My dear friends, just hear the decision of my mind. Krishna is the Lord of my life in all conditions, whether he shows me affection or kills me by giving me unhappiness. Sometimes Krishna gives up the company of other gopis and becomes controlled, mind and body, by me. Thus he manifests my good fortune and gives others distress by performing his loving affairs with me. Or, since after all he is a very cunning, obstinate debauchee with a propensity to cheat, he takes to the company of other women. He then indulges in loving affairs with them in front of me to give distress to my mind. Nevertheless, he is still the Lord of my life. I do not mind my personal distress. I only wish for the happiness of Krishna, for his happiness is the goal of my life. However, if he feels great happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. If Krishna, attracted by the beauty of some other woman, wants to enjoy with her, but is unhappy because he cannot get her, I fall down at her feet, catch her hand, and bring her to Krishna to engage her for his happiness. When a beloved gopi shows symptoms of anger towards Krishna, Krishna is very satisfied. Indeed, he is pleased when chastised by such a gopi. She shows her pride suitably, and Krishna enjoys that attitude. Then she gives up her pride with a little endeavor. Why does a woman continue to live who knows that Krishna's heart is unhappy, but who still shows her deep anger toward him? She is interested in her own happiness. I condemn such a woman to be struck on the head with a thunderbolt, for we simply want the happiness of Krishna. If a gopi envious of me satisfies Krishna and Krishna desires her, I shall not hesitate to go to her house and become her maidservant, for then my happiness will be awakened. the wife of a Brahmin who was suffering from leprosy, manifested herself as the topmost of all chaste women by serving a prostitute to satisfy her husband. She thus stopped the movement of the sun, brought her dead husband back to life, and satisfied the three principal demigods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvara. Oh, Krishna is my life and soul. Krishna is the treasure of my life. Indeed, Krishna is the very life of my life. I therefore keep him always in my heart and try to please him by rendering service. That is my constant meditation. My happiness is in the service of Krishna, and Krishna's happiness is in union with me. For this reason, I give my body in charity to the lotus feet of Krishna, who accepts me as his loved one and calls me his most beloved. It is then that I consider myself his maidservant. Service to my lover is the home of happiness, and is more sweet than direct union with him. The goddess of fortune is evidence of this, for although she constantly lives on the heart of Narayan, she wants to render service to his lotus feet. She therefore considers herself a maidservant and serves him constantly. These statements by Srimati Radharani show the symptoms of pure love for Krishna tasted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In that ecstatic love, his mind was unsteady. Transformations of transcendental love spread throughout his entire body, and he could not sustain his body and mind. The pure devotional service in Vrindavan is like the golden particles in the river Jambu. In Vrindavan, there is not a trace of personal sense gratification. It is to advertise such pure love in this material world that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has written the previous verse and explained its meaning. Thus, overwhelmed by ecstatic love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke like a madman and recited suitable verses. The Lord had formerly composed these 8 verses to teach people in general. Now he personally tasted the meaning of the verses, which are called the Shikshastika. If anyone recites or hears these 8 verses of instruction by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his ecstatic love and devotion for Krishna increase day by day. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is as deep and grave as millions of oceans, when the moon of his various emotions rises, he becomes restless. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read the verses of Jayadev's Gita Govinda, of Srimad Bhagavatam, of Ramananda Rai's drama Jagannath Vallabha Natak, and of Bilvamangal Thakur's Krishna Karnamrita, he was overwhelmed by the various ecstatic emotions of those verses. Thus he tasted their purports. For 12 years, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained in that state day and night. With his 2 friends, he tasted the meaning of those verses, which consist of nothing but the transcendental bliss and mellows of Krishna consciousness. Even Anantadeva, who has thousands of faces, could not reach the end of describing the transcendental bliss of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. How then could an ordinary living being with very little intelligence describe such pastimes? Nevertheless, I am trying to touch but a particle of them just to rectify my own self. There is no limit to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities and his words of madness. Therefore, describing them all would greatly increase the size of this book. Whatever pastimes Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has first described, I have merely summarized. I have only very briefly described the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Nevertheless, because those transcendental pastimes are so numerous, the size of this book has increased. It is impossible to describe all the pastimes elaborately. I shall therefore end this description and offer them my respectful obeisances. What I have described gives merely an indication, but by following this indication, one may obtain a taste of all the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I cannot understand the very deep, meaningful pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My intelligence cannot penetrate them, and therefore I could not properly describe them. After offering my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of all my Vaishnav readers, I shall therefore end this description of the characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The sky is unlimited, but many birds fly higher and higher according to their own abilities. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like the unlimited sky. How then can an ordinary living being describe them all? I have tried to describe them as far as my intelligence allows, as if trying to touch a drop in the midst of a great ocean. Vrindavan Das Thakur is Lord Nityananda's favorite devotee, and therefore he is the original Vyasadeva in describing the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although Vrindavan Das Thakur has within his jurisdiction the full store of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, he has left aside most of them and described but a small portion. What I have described was left aside by Vrindavan Das Thakur, but although he could not describe these pastimes, he gave us a synopsis. In his book named Chaitanya Mangal, or Chaitanya Bhagavat, he has described these pastimes in many places. I request my readers to hear that book, for that is the best evidence. I have described the pastimes very briefly, for it is impossible for me to describe them in full. In the future, however, Veda Vyas will describe them elaborately. In Chaitanya Mangal, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has stated in many places the factual truth that in the future Vyasadeva will describe them elaborately. The ocean of nectarian pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like the ocean of milk. According to his thirst, Vrindavan Das Thakur filled his pitcher and drank from that ocean. Whatever remnants of milk Vrindavan Das Thakur has given me are sufficient to fill my belly. Now my thirst is completely satiated. I am a very insignificant living being, like a small red-beaked bird. Just as such a bird drinks the water of the sea to quench its thirst, so I have touched only a drop of the ocean of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. From this example, you may all understand how expansive are the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I infer that I have written is a false understanding, for my body is like a wooden doll. I am old and troubled by invalidity. I am almost blind and deaf. My hands tremble, and my mind and intelligence are unsteady. I am infected by so many diseases that I can neither properly walk nor properly sit. Indeed, I am always exhausted by 5 kinds of disease. I may die at any time of the day or night. I have previously given an account of my inabilities. Please hear the reason why I nevertheless still write. I am writing this book by the mercy of the lotus feet of Sri Govinda Dev, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Advaitacharya, other devotees, and the readers of this book, as well as Swarup Damodar Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, who is my spiritual master, and Sri Jiva Goswami. I have also been specifically favored by another Supreme Personality. Sri Madan Mohan deity of Vrindavan has given the order that is making me write. Although this should not be disclosed, I disclose it because I am unable to remain silent. If I did not disclose this fact, I would be guilty of ingratitude toward the Lord. Therefore, my dear readers, please do not consider me too proud and be angry at me. It is because I have offered my prayers unto the lotus feet of all of you that whatever I have written about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been possible. Now let me repeat all the pastimes of the Antya Lila, for if I do so, I shall taste the pastimes again. The first chapter describes how Rupa Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the second time, and how the Lord heard his two dramas, Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava. That chapter also describes the incident of Shivananda Sain's dog, who was induced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to chant the holy name of Krishna and was thus liberated. In the second chapter, the Lord instructively punished Junya Haridas. Also in that chapter is the wonderful vision of Shivananda Sain. In the third chapter is a description of the forceful glories of Haridas Thakur. That chapter also mentions how Damodar Pandit spoke words of criticism to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The third chapter also tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered everyone by bestowing upon the universe the holy name of the Lord. And it describes how Haridas Thakur established the glories of the holy name by his practical example. The fourth chapter describes Sanatan Goswami's second visit with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how the Lord saved him from committing suicide. The fourth chapter also tells how Sanatan Goswami was tested in the sunshine of Jyeshta, May and June, and was thus empowered and sent back to Vrindavan. In the fifth chapter, the Lord showed his favor to Pradyumna Mishra and made him hear topics of Krishna from Ramananda Rai. Also in that chapter, Swarup Damodar Goswami rejected the drama of a poet from Bengal and established the glories of the deity. The sixth chapter describes how Raghunath Das Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and performed the chipped rice festival in accordance with Nityananda Prabhu's order. The Lord entrusted Raghunath Das Goswami to the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami and gave Raghunath Das the gift of a stone from Govardhan Hill and a garland of small conch shells. The seventh chapter tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Vallabha Bhatta and dismantled his false pride in various ways. The eighth chapter describes the arrival of Ramachandra Puri and how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu minimized his eating due to fear of him. In the ninth chapter is a description of how Gopinath Pattanayaka was delivered and how the people of the three worlds were able to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the 10th chapter, I have described how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tasted the food given by his devotees, and I have also described the assortments in the bags of Raghava Pandit. Also in that chapter is a description of how the Lord examined Govinda and how he danced in the temple. The 11th chapter describes the disappearance of Haridas Thakur and how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, showed his affection for his devotees. In the 12th chapter are descriptions of how Jagadananda Pandit broke a pot of oil and how Lord Nityananda chastised Shivananda Sain. In the 13th chapter, Jagadananda Pandit went to Mathura and returned, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chance heard a song sung by a Devadasi dancing girl. Also in the 13th chapter, Raghunath Bhatta met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who by his causeless mercy sent him to Vrindavan. The 14th chapter describes the beginning of the Lord's spiritual trance, in which his body was at Jagannath Puri, but his mind was in Vrindavan. Also in that chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down in front of the Shingadvar gate of Jagannath temple, his bones separated at the joints, and how various transcendental symptoms awakened. Also in that chapter there is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ran toward Chatik Parvat and spoke like a madman. In the 15th chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered a garden on the shore of the sea, mistaking the garden for Vrindavan. Also in that chapter is a description of the attraction of Lord Chaitanya's 5 senses to Krishna and how he searched for Krishna in the Ras dance. The 16th chapter tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to Kalidas and thus demonstrated the result of eating the remnants of the food of Vaishnavas. It also describes how Shivananda's son composed a verse and how the doorkeeper of the Shingadvar showed Krishna to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also in that chapter, the glories of Mahaprasad are explained, and a verse is tasted describing the effect of nectar from the lips of Krishna. In the 17th chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell among the cows and assumed the form of a tortoise as his ecstatic emotions awakened. Also in the 17th chapter, the attributes of Krishna's sound attracted the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who described in ecstasy the meaning of the Kastri Angate verse. Due to the conjunction of various ecstatic emotions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began speaking like a madman and described in detail the meaning of a verse from Krishna Karnamrita. In the 18th chapter, the Lord fell into the ocean, and in ecstasy he saw the pastimes of the water fight between Krishna and the gopis. In that dream, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Krishna's picnic in the forest. As Lord Chaitanya floated in the sea, a fisherman caught him, and then the Lord returned to his own residence. In the 19th chapter is a description of how Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rubbed his face against the walls and spoke like a madman because of separation from Krishna. That chapter also describes Krishna's wandering in a garden on a spring night, and it fully describes the meaning of a verse about the scent of Krishna's body. In the 20th chapter, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited his own 8 stanzas of instruction and tasted their meaning in ecstatic love. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu composed those 8 stanzas to instruct the devotees, but he also personally tasted their meaning. I have thus described the principal pastimes and their meaning, for by such repetition one can remember the descriptions in the book. In every chapter there are various topics, but I have selected only those that are principal, for not all of them could be described again. The Vrindavan deities of Madan Mohan with Srimati Radharani, Govinda with Srimati Radharani, and Gopinath with Srimati Radharani are the life and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So that my desires may be fulfilled, I place the lotus feet of these personalities on my head. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Lord Nityananda, Advaitacharya and their devotees, as well as Sri Svarup Damodar Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, who is my spiritual master, and Srila Jiva Goswami. The mercy of their lotus feet is my spiritual master, and my words are my disciples that I have made dance in various ways. Seeing the fatigue of the disciples, the spiritual master has stopped making them dance, and because that mercy no longer makes them dance, my words now sit silently. My inexperienced words do not know how to dance by themselves. The mercy of the Guru made them dance as much as possible, and now after dancing they have taken rest. I now worship the lotus feet of all my readers, for by the mercy of their lotus feet there is all good fortune. If one hears the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, I wash his lotus feet and drink the water. I decorate my head with the dust of the lotus feet of my audience. Now you have all drunk this nectar, and therefore my labor is successful. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Chaitanya Charitamrita is filled with the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. It invokes all good fortune and destroys everything inauspicious. If one tastes the nectar of Chaitanya Charitamrita with faith and love, I become like a bumblebee tasting the honey of transcendental love from his lotus feet. Since this book, Chaitanya Charitamrita, is now complete, having been written for the satisfaction of the most opulent deities, Madan Mohanji and Govindaji, let it be offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dev. Realized devotees are like bumblebees, maddened by their own mellows at Krishna's lotus feet. The scent of those lotus feet perfumes the entire world. Who is the realized soul that could give them up? In Vrindavan, in the year 1537, Shakabda era, in the month of Jyeshta, May or June, on Sunday, the 5th day of the waning moon, this Chaitanya Charitamrita has been completed. This ends the 20th chapter of the Antya Leela, the Shikshastika prayers, and this brings to an end the narration of the entire book, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta.
The book was written in Bengali by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translated into English by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and published by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in Los Angeles, California. This recording has been inspired by and dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, my spiritual master, without whose causeless mercy it would never have come to pass. I therefore offer it at his lotus feet, as well as at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Acharya, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Thakur, and all their glorious associates and devotees. I further offer it at the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and at the feet of all their glorious associates and devotees. Thanking them all for this precious opportunity to serve them and paying obeisances at their lotus feet again and again, I pray that they may be pleased to accept this humble offering. I further pray that devotees everywhere may listen to and relish this transcendental subject matter and thereby be blessed with true delight, happiness, and fulfillment of the soul or pure love of Godhead. This recording has been produced by Krishna Productions. The musical selections, sound effects, and engineering were under the direction of Vaibhavi Devidasi. The overall production was directed by, and all the voice characterizations were performed by your narrator, Amala Bhaktadas. Hoping that you have greatly enjoyed it, I thank you for listening. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare